inspiration. I am. The words of inspiration. I am. Since I was a little kid, I would think about the different perspectives on how to live. I had a gift, forgiveness in my soul, the world in my hands. Words are so powerful, I had to understand. In order to be a man, I had to stand up. Accept my imperfections, I was handcuffed.
Hey, Startup Minds. Today is a beautiful Tuesday, I believe, and it's June 3rd. So that can only mean one thing. We have a podcast guest, and this guest goes by the name of Jayla Siciliano, and she is a Shark Tank alum with funding from the likes of Mark Cuban, and she's an entrepreneur for sure. I know them when I see them. So Jayla, welcome to the show, and you're a badass guest too, so thank you.
Thanks for having me. Fun to connect.
Yeah, could you tell the audience about yourself just in a nutshell? Where'd you grow up? I know it's California, but who's Jayla behind all this
Yeah, totally.
stuff?
Yeah, I actually grew up in New Hampshire, I should say. Somehow don't have the accent. I haven't lived there as an adult, but grew up in a little small town, and my dad had his own business. So I kind of always saw him have that flexibility and, never had a boss, never loved what he did. So had a great role model from that perspective. But after graduating college, and then I had a wild side, just kind of partied through my 20s, didn't really think about a serious career, you could say. Got a job in corporate and spent 7 years working in a corporate world, traveling kind of all over the world, working for Diesel Footwear and Burton Snowboards. So super fun. But I was like, I don't think I want to work for someone else the rest of my life. And just thought, it'd be super easy to, I have an idea for a product. It'll be so easy. I'll just launch it and cash in for a bunch of money and then just chill. So that was kind of my so that was kind of my mindset going into that. And so since then, I really have, for almost, 20 years, 18 years, been in the entrepreneurship kind of realm of things. And it was a rude awakening, when I first dove in, quit the job, but have managed to, with a lot of pivots, get to a place where, I feel like my life is balanced with my business career. And it took me a long time to kind of get to that place where I felt like those two were both in balance and I wasn't sacrificing one for the other. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
New Hampshire, huh? So
Yeah.
what's the city in New Hampshire? Montpelier? No.
Yeah, that's Vermont. It's actually a very small town called Ware, Ueare, Ware, New Hampshire. Yeah. It's an hour north of Boston, 10 minutes from Concord, had a little ski resort and a lake in it. So amazing place to grow up. Would love going back there, but super small town.
New England would be another.
Yes, New England. Yeah.
No way. So how'd you end up in the West Coast? Was it just work or, you wanted to go, right?
Yeah, well, I guess, I kind of always had a little sense of adventure, and I was all ready to go to Boston University. And I kind of I got an acceptance letter in the mail from UOP in Stockton. And I was like, I've never been to California. I'll try that out. So I did a year at UOP and I was like, this is not what I pictured California to be like,
Middle of nowhere almost, right?
Yeah. Beautiful campus, but the area is not as great as not what I pictured. So I ended up transferring to UCSB in Santa Barbara, and that's right. Yeah. Moved away for a while, came back, and now live here and we love it.
Now, I got the infamous question. How many have you been to, over 40 or under 40 countries? If you had to think?
Ooh, I'd say under, but not that far under.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, no, I'd like to get to over 4. I don't think I've been to 40. Yeah, I don't think so.
Yep. That's definitely.
That's a good marker, though. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I've been to less than 10, or less than 7 actually. So catching up time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jayla. So you come out to California. Did you always did you study something that you think made you want to become an entrepreneur and run a business, or was it just you had that idea in the spur of the moment, or what happened?
No, I studied, my first class I did in college was biochem because I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist, and I got into that class and dropped it. I was like, my brain does not work that way. I can't memorize stuff, it just doesn't work that way. And then I ended up choosing my degree based on the fact that it required you to study abroad, and I went to Costa Rica. So I studied global studies, and that was, in around, 1998 and 9, and it was like globalization was just kind of starting. And I thought I was going to basically save the world and, help get rid of sweatshops. And then my first job a few years later, I find myself working in factories making shoes in China.
You were in
And I was
China?
like, oh man, I kind of didn't really go down the save the world path that I thought I was going to in college. But no,
Oh,
it had nothing to do
wow.
with business or entrepreneurship. I wasn't even thinking that way at all.
What part of China would you say, or was it multiple parts of China?
Southern China, so like Guangzhou area,
Guangzhou. Yeah, I knew
just
that
north
one.
of
I knew
yeah,
that.
Hong Kong.
No way. Okay. So you're over there and you're thinking like, what am I doing? At that point in your life, was it like, how did you even end up there? Like that's that's so far away from California. How did you just got a
Well,
job and said,
I
I'm
was
here?
just traveling there for work. So we were just doing, I was
Oh,
working
okay.
for Diesel out of an office here, but all of our factories were in China. So we would just travel over there, product development trips and stuff.
No way. Okay, so take me to okay, so you end up going on Shark Tank and that was an interesting time. But that company that's not around anymore, right? But that was a really interesting time. Like what was the name of that company?
Yeah, so that was my idea. That was called Bonafare, and I did that for about 10 years. And that was sparked from 7 years of working in these like high drinking environment type companies. It was just heavy party scene, fashion, snowboarding. I've always been active and healthy. And at a certain point, I was like, I can't go out and do shots and still wake up and work out in the morning. So I started making like wine spritzers. And this is before White Claw. Like the only thing that was out there that was light alcohol was beer or like the cheesy wine coolers of the 80s that were made with malt liquor and nasty sugar
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
preservatives.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so, and I wasn't a beer drinker. I'd get super full and tired. And I was like, why is there not a lighter, healthier, option for people who don't want to drink beer, but don't want to drink cocktails and even regular wine was like, I couldn't drink it like I used to be able to. So I thought, oh, this will be really easy. It's one product. And so I quit my job to launch that and ended up on a crazy little roller coaster growing that company and did that for about 10 years and then woke up one day and was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I am so burnt out. And it was like pushing a huge boulder uphill because very expensive to educate an industry of a new product category and a consumer base. So all the distributors and everybody we were working with kept saying, why would someone pay for less alcohol? Like that wasn't even a concept. Like now there's huge categories at the store for all these low alcohol products, seltzers, spritzers, and all this stuff. But it really took like a big company like White Claw coming out to establish that as a category. And so I was a bit too early and it was trying to push a big rock uphill. Had I stuck with it, might have been a different story, but I talked to all my investors and made the super hard choice, hardest decision ever in my life to wind it down. I had a couple people lined up to acquire it. They fell through. And at that point, I was, my husband and I decided to start a family and we just wound it down and shifted,
Congrats.
took a year off and switched gears. So that's the not fun part of entrepreneurship that I don't think a lot of people talk about.
Yeah, yeah. So Mark Cuban, right? Like, and I guess Kevin O'Leary, and you got to meet the crew, Barbara. I guess what I'm missing, Robert. That's a show I like too. I
Barbara.
actually Barbara Corcoran.
Mm-hmm.
And you're pitching them there. Like, could you tell me, like, I guess just what it was like for you to be in like a national show in front of like millions of, well, I guess like not maybe millions at the time, but viewed by millions, or just I don't know, just having that experience. Like, if you had to say,
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. I mean, like you cannot beat the exposure. It was super intense. I don't know if I'd want to do it again, but I'm really glad I did it. It was one of those just amazing life experiences, and it's a huge boost in the arm for your business. And working with Mark Cuban was amazing. He's awesome, just in it for the right reasons and good guy, definitely there to actually help entrepreneurs and leans in and, was hands-on, which I never expected him to be in any capacity. So yeah, it was a great experience. It's really fun. Anybody, if you need a little marketing injection into your business, I highly recommend it. Yeah.
yeah, I interviewed somebody who got funded by Mark Cuban too. His name was Nick Sky. He funded or he created a student loan repayment app. But yeah, he said some of the things like Mark Cuban's a very enthusiastic and crazy guy too. Okay, so after you get some initial capital from Cuban and I guess his fund, like what happens next to the company? You just go, out of control, or what happens?
Yeah, so we were growing. It was still a very niche product. It was more a higher price point. So I knew it wasn't going to be, super mass marketed at the time. I do think now like there are brands at that price point that have grown pretty decent. But I spent 5 years before Shark Tank trying to get in all these distributors and, retailers and made good progress, but you get a million no's. And then all of a sudden your episode airs on Shark Tank and it's like people are calling you. And it's so hard to say no because you've been begging for all these opportunities. So the hard lesson learned there was, we were trying to do too much too fast and spread ourselves too thin. We were trying to go into like resorts in Vegas with an aluminum bottle and, Whole Foods and restaurants and bars and spas and, 7 states and shipping internationally. And it was just like way under resourced for how much we were trying to do. So it led me to basically just completely burn out.
Oh, okay.
Like, thought basically high blood pressure. My great grandmother died
Sorry
at
about that.
46 of a heart attack. So I was like, this isn't worth my health kind of situation.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But to get into like the funner side of the drinks and alcohol, you guys created your own kind of not seltzer, but more of like a, what you would say, like alcoholic beverage, right? Is it still around, or is it like
Nope. I don't know.
no?
Sometimes, I've looked it up online like a couple of years ago, and I don't know. Some people are like, yeah, it's still around. I'm like, I have no idea. So I don't know if it's been knocked off, but no, we're not currently selling it anymore. We've joked, my husband
Okay.
and I, about like picking it back up. And now that we're doing well financially, we're like, God, should we just like start the company again? And, we can keep our existing investors engaged somehow to, but we can finance it. But the irony now is that we just hardly drink anymore. We're just much more in a like different
Right.
state of life, and we just don't
What
really.
was your go-to choice back in the day, like Jameson or something? Or
Oh God, I don't know. Like in my 20s, I don't know, anything you name it.
whatever
I
they had,
guess.
right?
Yeah. I think I had a dark and stormy phase for a while.
Okay, I could see that.
No, but this one, yeah, this was actually, we made it like with real wine. It had, no added sugar, all natural, no preservatives. So it was really like a lighter, healthier option for people who care about that. And 6.5% alcohol, so less than wine.
Well, okay, so it was like a wine and a seltzer hybrid, you'd say.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they don't even have that anymore.
There's a few out there. There's some
Oh,
for
okay.
sure.
I've heard
Yeah.
of Free AF. Like, have you heard of them?
That sounds familiar. I don't know if
Free
I've
AF.
tried it. Yeah.
Weird names. Okay, so I guess you do that, and then like after you do that, like what happens next for you? Like you just take a break, right? Or like you?
Yeah, so we had put off having kids. I was
Uh-huh.
38 at this point, and we were like, and I never really thought about having kids. It wasn't a priority for either of us, but all of a sudden we were like, I think when we realized, oh, we're going to be 40 soon, maybe if we do want to do that, we should probably figure it out soon. So I ended up taking a year off, had my son, and just kind of decompressed. And at that point I was like, I'm never going to start another business again. But if I did, it would be a service-based business. I'm not doing consumer products anymore. But I was like, I just don't even have it in me. I just want to like collect a paycheck. I'd be totally happy having my weekends off and just, do that. So I ended up working the VP of sales and marketing for a music company here in Santa Barbara, legendary like family run company, a really cool, music legacy type company. And then a few years into that, I was like, wait a minute, I think I overcorrected. I don't want to work for someone else. I do want to work for myself again. I just don't want to do consumer products in a like new category with everything working against me where I have to go out. Because I had to raise money from private investors before I went on Shark Tank. I skipped that part, but I should mention that. Like I spent 18 months pitching
Like
investors.
venture capitalists, or what do you call them? Like,
Angel investors.
Angel investor.
Yeah,
Okay.
but non-friends and family angel investors. So it took me 18 months to find people who would put in $500,000 to get the company going, to even launch it.
Right. Let's go back to that. So like when it was like those a year and a half of time, like are you paying yourself like a salary at all? Right? No, not really.
No, not at that point. I was basically just kind of working, doing consulting jobs, like whatever I could on the side, and pitching investors during the day and kind of consulting jobs at night.
What gave you? So a lot of questions on the starter mindsets we ask is like, what gave you that fortitude to just pursue that turbulent time, right? It's just, I think people are like, oh, the bills are due, but I have a credit card. It'll take care of itself. But I mean, it did. But like, what made you
Yeah.
continue?
I just really believed in it. Like I knew it was needed on the market. I knew people needed that. And now evidenced by the fact that it's become, an 11 plus $billion category, I think it was needed. So I think my intuition was right there. I just underestimated what it took to do that. And, there was also an element of I quit my job, and a lot of people thought I had the dream job working at Burton, And when you quit your job and announce to your friends and family you're going to do something, at that point, it's also just like sheer determination that I'm going to make it happen. So I don't know. I just had I definitely, I think that's just part of my personality. I get into something and then I just am like determined to do it. And I've done that with a couple other things since, but because it takes that to be able to push through a lot of no's, I always say you have to, as an entrepreneur, be almost a little bit deliriously optimistic and then also just put in the effort, the mindset work to be able to push through.
Yeah. I guess like I'm an entrepreneur. I wrote that book in the background.
Yeah, I love it.
And I don't even know how I did that sometimes. Is it for you? Like you have moments where like, how do I even do that? Like you're just like, oh no, that's what I do. Because it's a weird tightrope to be like, yeah, I knew I would do that, but then it's like I didn't actually know if I would do that.
Yeah, I think you get in. Sometimes I don't know. It's a fine balance between like focusing on the future and also just being completely present, working on what you're working on to like keep plowing through. And then, picking your head up for air once in a while and going, oh, whoa, look what I did. That's crazy. Cool. Okay, go back down and like keep, building. It's like this build, come up for air, look around, go back down, build,
So what would you say was the most difficult part of like growing Bon Affair? Like, would it have been just the revenue side of things, or would it have just been like,
getting it profitable, like that industry is extremely hard to be profitable anyway, even for big companies. Brand awareness and profitability, like, your distributors are taking 20 to 30%, the retailers are taking 20 to 40%, then you're paying for tastings. It's just really tough to have a competitive price point and be profitable, especially at smaller quantities. You don't have, hundreds of thousands of cases to get economies of scale. But the hardest like mindset moment that I hit in that company was after I spent, 18 months raising $500,000. We went to launch our production run. There was only one bottler at the time who would take us because licensing alcohol's loosened up a little bit, but then you had to have a certain license to produce this thing and blah, blah, blah. So there was only one bottler that would take us. And we did our first production run. Even though we did samples, everything, we lost $100,000 worth of inventory, leaking caps, and they forgot to clean the lines, or I don't know what they did. But anyway, there was stuff like floating in it, and they actually went out of business 6 months later. So that was devastating, and it took all I could. That's like when I started like yoga and meditating, and I had to like really dig deep to push through and go, okay, how am I going to figure this out? Those are the things you just don't plan on or expect to happen, those huge situations like that.
I kind of had the same. I didn't make like a drink, but with that book, they had it stuck at like a port, and there was like supply chain issues. So yeah, it happens. Okay, so you go through all those things. What do you think were the biggest takeaways that you took away from those experiences that you apply now in your current company, or your current entrepreneurial activities?
Yeah, so in my current company, I'd say the biggest one that I've applied, well, two, I guess, staying focused. So not trying to just do everything, just being really good at one small area and building more sustainably versus just trying to go too fast and losing quality or and burning myself out. So the other thing is really building up a team. Now it's much easier to do because it's a much more profitable business that I'm in now versus before, But yeah, making sure it's not all on me. I have an amazing team, and just setting it up in a sustainable way where balancing being profitable with also making sure it's not, I want to have flexibility at this point. I love doing my podcast. I've got my family obligations. I want to go, not be able to go on my son's field trips and do all that kind of stuff right now where we're at.
How old is your son? Like 7 or?
He's 8. Yeah.
8. Cool.
Yeah. Such a fun age, and like go play soccer with him after school and not be looking at my phone.
Right.
And, it's not perfect. Obviously, things happen. And every once in a while, you have a busy few weeks or something comes up. But yeah, those are the two biggest lessons that I learned: staying focused and then just making sure it's set up to be sustainable for the long term.
What random, but was e-commerce like a big thing when you guys had that the wine, the alcoholic beverages? Was it a big
It
thing back
was like
then?
just starting out. So that was 2008.
Yeah.
In 2007, I left my job. Yeah, 8, 9, we were building the e-commerce site. 2008, I guess. I mean, it was expensive to build an e-commerce site then. It was like now you can literally start one in like 2 seconds and
Yeah,
be
okay.
selling. So, I had to spend a lot of money up front. Same with alcohol licensing. I had to get licensed in every state, which was a huge legal bill,
Yeah.
versus now you can just like pay a company to like lean on, attach yourself to their license, and it's like you can have it set up in a day. So there were some huge expenses
You
up
were
front.
needing to drink the alcohol at the convent
Yeah,
site.
exactly. Yeah, that came in handy.
Yeah. I would have done the same. No, that's really cool. But what I was going to ask you too, like to get into like that operational aspect, when somebody's spending a lot of the money they saved up, or like a lot of the money that was generated from cash, the revenue, did that? Because I find like that's something hard for anyone to do, right? Like it's like I don't want to use it for that. I want to, take care of myself and all that. Like how do you think somebody should approach like hiring people when it comes to using the limited resources that they have? Like, is it something that they should be like, oh, this doesn't work out, then we're in a bigger hole? Or if it's like, if this did work out, then I guess we minimize the hole. Like, what do you think is the
Yeah, I
point?
think, one of the mistakes I've made a couple times now is hiring people who are more generalists early on when you actually need just like specific things to get executed. And I
Hmm.
think when you give someone, it depends on the person, and there's so many different scenarios, but I've just had this happen a few times where now, so my recommendation from hiring is, first of all, like as the founder, I think best use of time is sales, business development, marketing. So
Yeah.
any of the little stuff that I'm doing or they're doing or whoever's doing that they don't need to be doing should be delegated out. And there's so many ways to do that now with like, there's
Hmm.
so many contract assistants, or in every capacity. You can find people specialized who you can just have for 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week to do something like bookkeeping or social or whatever. So you don't need to hire someone who's going to do all these things, pay them a salary, and then they're kind of half-assing all those things because they're not an expert in them. They're just like, yeah, I could do them. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my advice, is to make sure, you're focused on the right things that will move the needle as the founder, which is typically sales, marketing, business development type stuff.
Hmm.
Or if you're raising money, you should be the one out there raising the money. And then just write down all the other like little operational stuff and try to get all that stuff off your plate through specialized contractors. Depending on, again, if you're at the point where you can hire full-time employees, I think it's nice to do a combination of like, salary and equity so that you're not paying super high market salaries if you find the right people who are in it, excited about that. But yeah, that would be my advice. That's a mistake I've made a few times, is like getting caught up in doing stuff that isn't worth my time.
Yeah. I totally know what you're saying. It's like, why am I editing these videos on somebody's 20 time?
Exactly.
But is that so your podcast, the Seed Money's podcast, do you have an editor, or you like,
Yeah,
what's your
so I
process there?
I have an agency, and I basically just show up, hit record, and they do everything else. So, they book the guest, they do all the follow-up, they do all the editing, they do the YouTube thumbnails, they do the show notes, I review the show notes, and then
Right.
they load it and post it and everything. Because I think consistency, like my goal when I started the podcast was just to be consistent
Hmm.
for 3 to 5 years. Like that's the only thing I can control. Can't, unless I'm going to put a ton of money into marketing or something, I can't really control how fast it grows. And I knew in order to be consistent, I could not be the one doing all the
Yeah.
doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's worked out well.
So you would suggest like somebody who has a new business or startup that they delegate, and that they spend their own money to to make those things happen, right? Because you can't delegate without like just saying, oh, you can't like force, you can't like not pay them anything, right? So that's how.
Yeah, I think even just starting with one task, like what's one, if you're really on a super tight budget, it's like, what's one repetitive thing that takes up my time that I hate doing? So I believe there's like an energetic thing to it also. If you
Okay.
get frustrated doing something and you hate doing it, it's
Yeah,
not,
you're right.
it has an additional toll aside from taking up your time. It just like
Like
squashes your,
Texas, right?
yeah.
Texas.
So yeah, exactly. So even if it's one thing, what's one thing you can just delegate out and hire somebody. I don't believe like the $4 to $5 VAs out of the Philippines. I think if it's a super repetitive task,
Oh yeah.
it could be okay, but typically you get what you pay for. But you can get
Okay.
like really good people in the, $10 to $20 an hour range to take a few things off your plate. It can be really motivating and helpful and, a good way to get started, and then you just keep building on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I guess so now you do a little work in real estate, it seems like too. Like is that like a full-time job, or is that more like a let's I guess people say real estate is something you just put off like to the side and have it work for you. Is that how can you explain those Atlas Vacations?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I don't think it's completely passive unless you're investing in like a syndication or something. So if you're actually doing the buying and managing of your own rentals, it's not passive, but it's extremely lucrative and it's a great wealth building tool. So in my early 20s, I bought a triplex and lived in each unit, fixed it up and rented them out. And I held that for, I don't know, it was like 10 or 15 years. And I wish I had kept doing real estate on the side, but I was like all in on this other company. But my husband and I knew we wanted to get back into real estate and keep buying real estate. We just kind of love doing that and it's fun. So we bought our first short-term rental in 2020, and we hired a management company and they were absolutely horrible, like worst customer service, like just so bad all around. And my husband's like, you should do it. And I'm like, I don't have time to do it. I don't want to do it. And then finally I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. So I pulled the like wake up at 4 a.m. and set up all the software. And I went, like kind of little overboard on it and set it up to be able to manage like 100 properties, because I didn't want it to take up a bunch of my time.
Wow.
So basically then I was like, oh, actually, okay, this is perfect. Because as we keep buying properties, I can just put them under, in this system and keep building it. And then I was like, I think someone said, can you manage our property for us? So it just kind of word of mouth started building as a management company and us buying properties. And then kind of didn't, needed a reminder on that lesson about going too far, too fast, started just kind of managing anything and realized, wait a minute, like this isn't going to work. I want to focus on luxury properties only, high end. I don't want to geographically, be all over the place. So we were in Stowe, Vermont and Santa Barbara, California, and just growing kind of a high end luxury portfolio in those two places. So now we're managing like 37 properties. And I've got a great team in both areas, back end team and boots on the ground teams. And I'd say, I spend, I don't know, maybe like 20 hours a week on that. Doing that. And then the other amount of time we're spending kind of looking for new properties and tax strategies and stuff like that.
Do you get a mortgage on these properties, or you just, cash?
No, we finance most of them. Yeah. Cause, it's like, why not? You know what I mean? They're making more money than the interest on the loan, by a lot. So it would make no sense to tie up a bunch of cash, in there. On the flip side though, we make sure we have enough equity and reserves. Like I think where people get in trouble with real estate is they just keep buying and buying with like maybe a 10% down loan or super, not enough equity. The market shifts. They don't have enough reserves and they can't weather the storm. So I think it's important to grow, be a little bit ambitious, take some risks, but make sure you just have enough reserves to be able to kind of weather any storm you need to.
Yeah. So you've been in the real estate game for like more than 15 years at least, it seems like, or a long time.
I mean, very lightly in my early 20s, with that triplex. And then the last 5 years, it's been, full on, like heavily, yeah.
Is it like on Airbnbs or?
Yeah, all short-term rentals, yeah. Well, no, I mean, I guess now we have a couple midterm rentals and just looking at long-term rentals and starting to just look at kind of some commercial stuff for
Wow. I know
certain reasons.
Santa Barbara is a good market, but every time I go to I've been to Santa Barbara, it's always expensive hotel.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not
Santa
bother.
Barbara's pricey. That's why um, we own a few places here, but we ended up buying in Vermont because the numbers just made a lot of sense there. You got a lot more for your money, additional land that we could develop. So, but Santa Barbara's a great market. I mean, I think these higher end markets, they kind of hold their value, which is good.
Yeah, yeah. I was in New York a week ago, and I had to ask you this: what coast do you prefer, the West or the East Coast?
Ooh,
You're on the
that's
West
tough.
Coast though, so
Yeah. I mean, I clearly prefer the West Coast because I live here full time. Most of the time we go back to Vermont, but I just can't do the winter, the cold, the bugs. I just love the weather in Santa Barbara.
yeah,
It's
you
worth
got a
every
good point.
penny.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. There's no, that's in Malibu, but no, it's called what's it called? Goleta Beach or no?
Oh, Goleta. Yep.
Goleta. There you go. But Santa Barbara is better than San Luis Obispo, right? If anyone asks, or what do you
I
think?
think so, but we live here. I don't know. San Luis Obispo is great and it's growing, and that's probably a good place to buy because I think it is growing and it's still a little bit, lower price point than the Bay Area. Like I think eventually over time, between Santa Barbara and San Francisco, all those towns are going to just kind of keep filling in. Atascadero's been growing, Paso Robles is growing. So some of
Yeah,
those
I heard of those
areas,
places. Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think is like the number one thing that people misunderstand about like real estate investing or doing something like what you have with the, Airbnb's system, like just short-term rentals? Because it's something like, yeah, people. I used to work at Airbnb or hotel at night for a little bit and like look at listings all the time. So it's like I was like, oh, how does this work? And then it's like I'm like, there's a host who has a lot of properties who makes this work. But I think there's more to that than. But anyway, would you say that anyone can get started? They just have to save up a little nest egg and make it work, right? Or work with people. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many tax advantages. That's
Oh wow.
there's a lot of tax advantages in real estate. But yeah, I think, I have friends who maybe work W-2 jobs and they don't want to be doing that. And they look at real estate, but they're just kind of afraid of jumping in. And I think I don't know why it can be very intimidating to people. There are, just like I always say, like starting a company, there's so many people out there with money who are looking for things to invest in. There are so many ways to get financing for properties. And, we've used hard money lenders for places that needed to be renovated that weren't bankable. So, I think there's a million different ways you just and hard money lender sounds intimidating, but if you don't pay a bank, they're also going to take your home, so it's really no different. You might be paying a higher interest rate for a short term till you refinance out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's intimidating just because it's a little bit unknown for people. And what I suggest, there's a lot of great masterminds out there on real estate. I think find some that are reputable from people who have actually been doing it for a while and not, I don't know. There's some out there that I just am like, how is that person teaching that? Like,
I know. Ty Lopez, huh? He got me suckered into that one time,
oh
and
no.
that's $100, but it's okay.
Yeah, so I think find a good one, and it can be really, really helpful to just troubleshoot a lot of the scenarios that come up, or like a local meetup group and try to find some people that can. I mean, most people are willing to help and just start asking questions and listen. There's so many podcasts you can listen to on real estate, and
Oh wow, yeah. I feel like, yeah. Would you prefer to like buy a home outright if you had the capital for it, or like would you think that the loans and all? I guess it depends what you want to do, but like I guess it's how would you go about that if you're like looking at that for the first time in
so I
today's
mean,
market?
if I had sold my first company for the 100 million I, originally had planned on, then yeah, of course I would like buy them outright, but if you're in a wealth building stage and you're trying to build wealth, leveraging that money, because if you think about it, okay, let's say you have $1 million property.
Mm-hmm.
If you put $1 million into that property, now you have, let's say that's your total nest egg, $1 million, and you buy the property for $1 million, or maybe you put 900,000 into it. You keep 100,000 for, operational costs, reserves, whatever. Now you have to wait until you get another $1 million to buy another property. Whereas if you buy the $1 million property with say 20 or 30% down, you can buy $2 million properties with that $1 million. And then you have tenants paying down those mortgages over time. You have cash flow from both of those properties, and you have appreciation from both of those properties. So in 10 years, you're going to be in a much better situation, especially 20 years, or, buy and hold if you're not planning on like flipping them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would not recommend buying a property all cash. But again, especially where the world and economy is at, I also don't think you want to do like the 10% down thing unless you have plenty of reserves, because especially right now, there's so many unknowns with what's going to happen. Who knows with the economy where it's at.
Sure.
So you just want to be able to I think have at least 18 months reserves in the bank.
For yourself, right? Like for yourself and
to
your
be able to
family.
pay the taxes, mortgage, and insurance. So let's say something catastrophic happened. Let's say another COVID happened or whatever, who knows?
Yeah, you're right.
That you can pay those mortgages if nobody's paying you. So you just want to have reserves to be able to cover the bills a lot of people say 6 to 12 months, but I say just like peace of mind fund and have 18 months reserves.
Oh, wow.
It's just making sure you're like totally set.
Sure.
But I wouldn't recommend putting the whole $1 million to pay for it in cash. I really wouldn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, it's just I thought about that too. So and for anyone who does something like monumental with their money, right? Like you might lose sleep over that. So it's like, what did I do? What I didn't do? Have you ever been to Texas? Have you ever thought of renting or properties over there?
Yeah, I think there's some great markets in Texas. I just don't really want to go to Texas that much. So
Yeah, I hear you.
at this point, I want to only buy stuff in places I like to visit, But I think there are some great markets. I've heard there's some lake communities if you're looking at short-term rentals. I think any of the growing urban areas, I don't know the markets well enough to say what areas are, good strategically right now. But I think from a price point standpoint, the one thing I would say is don't be afraid to buy out of state. I think it's not that difficult to, get some resources. Like when I bought the place in Vermont, I didn't have anybody there. Just start picking up the phone, found a contractor who was willing to give me tons of time. He still works with me today in managing all the properties there. So
And
you
what
just
is a
got to,
contractor? Is that like a real estate agent or no?
no, he's like a builder, maintenance person.
Like a
Yeah.
handyman guy.
Yep. So you just got to find people who, you kind of trust and pay them really well and, just build a team, and it's very easy to have property out of state.
Wow, yeah, no, that's cool. I don't think I've met anyone who does that, like at that year scale. So that's a good thing to learn about. What are some of the mistakes you think you've made when it came to, I don't know, this real estate world and I guess running this real estate company or Atlas Vacations?
I think one of the mistakes was building up the management company in Stowe. So we're managing, I don't know what it is, like 20, 27, 25 plus properties, 3,000 miles away.
Okay.
And I hired an operations manager to kind of manage everything. They were in place for a good year, and then it just wasn't, I really needed a higher caliber person to just be able to kind of take it all off of my plate. So right now I'm in a little bit of a limbo spot where I'm trying to decide what to do with that portfolio. I either need to invest to hire the right person to completely take it off my plate or figure out what else to do, because inevitably it's just the time difference. The hospitality industry can be a lot. We will have, hundreds and hundreds of bookings in a month during busy season. And inevitably, even though we have escalation processes in place, things will get put in front of me, at 5 a.m. I'm like, I don't want to deal with that right now. It's 5 a.m, So the time difference is really the only issue there. So I think going out of state, but if you're going to go the short-term rental route and build up a hospitality company, it is hospitality. And to do it right, you want to provide a great service. I'd recommend sticking at least in your own time zone.
Yeah. Do you prefer doing this over a startup, or what would you say is your favorite to do?
A good question. I mean, I like this because it's a good money maker.
Yeah.
That part, startups, you don't typically make money for a little while, whereas this, you're making money right out of the gate and it's lucrative. But I love the startup process, and that's why I did the podcast, because I miss being in that world a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So, and I feel like I just learned so many hard lessons in the fundraising, and I raised money against all odds. And there's so many people out there who need money to launch and grow their business. And so that's why I started the podcast. And it's super fun just talking about that
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah,
I love it. I always say it takes so much passion to decide to start something and to
yeah.
put yourself out there. And I just love that part of humans in general. And so like anything I can do to help people who are in, because I know how hard it is and how hard it can be. So I just love that stage in general, you know. So
I know
that's
what
why
you're
I do the
saying. I know what
podcast.
you're saying. Yeah, I have one too, I guess. I like your point when you talked about doing something that you're just passionate about. Like I think like it's a lost or it's a discussion that people want to have, but they don't know what to do, right? So it's like a lot of people ask me like, "Yeah, what do I do, Dan? I want to be like you and have a book." I'm like, you just gotta open Google Docs and put your money or put your words to the paper or the digital
Hmm.
paper. But I guess Jayla, like a couple last questions for you. Like when it came to like entrepreneurship, it wasn't glamorized back in your time with the shark. I mean, it wasn't like nowadays where it's like everybody likes to like flaunt on the social media or like, make themselves look better than who they are. Do you think like that's negative way? Is that a negative way to push entrepreneurship culture? Because I think like, yeah, small business is the backbone of the country. And then also it's like a great pursuit for anybody. Do you think like there's more, what do you call that? Glamorization rather than just authentic appreciation?
Yeah, I definitely do to some degree. And that's another reason like why I wanted to start the podcast. I feel like a lot of the content out there, and especially, I don't know, I guess when I was starting, it's from the VC perspective. And it's like, you have to be a unicorn to be successful. Like I literally heard a VC say this like a month ago.
Hmm.
Basically, like this woman was saying, if you're not unicorn material, like you basically are not successful. And I was like, that is so messed up. I'm
I
like,
don't
that is
know.
so wrong. Like, so few people reach that. To not feel like you can be successful without that or without that amount of money is
Toxic
so,
industry. Toxic people there.
so bad.
Very
Yeah.
toxic. Very toxic.
Yeah. So I think that's another reason, like one of the things I talk to entrepreneurs about when they are getting ready to raise money is like, why do you want to raise this amount of money? Like, what's your goal? What's your lifestyle goal? Because once you raise a ton of money, especially if you go the VC route, like it's not a work 20 hours a week thing. Like, you are now your boss is your investors. You know what I mean? You're not working for yourself anymore. You're working for your customers. You're working for your investors. So if the goal is flexibility and to make money, there's some amazing small businesses or other types of businesses that can be lucrative without having to go out and like raise a ton of money. So I think it's important to really figure out what your life goals are and your personal goals are and make sure your startup path is aligned with that. Because I think there's a lot of people, I've had guests on my podcast who've said, yeah, I sold my company for 100 million and I was depressed after, because it's like, you're so swept up in that. And it's like, really? And then it's like, wow, that's crazy, So I think it is glamorized. And I think there is some downside to that. But I
Hmm.
guess on the flip side, I don't know, maybe it's needed in order to get people to take the jump and start because it's so hard to do. You have to have that carrot. So I don't know. I think you can look at it both ways, but I think there are some negatives and there's probably some positives to it for sure. But
Yeah, no, I think about that too. Yeah, I guess a couple last questions. It's a cool conversation for sure. Yeah, like I guess like there's something my co-author in the book I wrote, he talks about going from -1 to 0. Do you think like when you made these decisions to start, the businesses that you've had, was there a lot of like hesitation or were you just somebody who's just like, yeah, it's already like it's not even too much to think about. Let's just start. And is that like your personality, would you think, or is that more like your
yeah, I'm definitely the like, what is it? Fire, shoot, aim at the end, instead of aim, shoot, fire or aim, fire, shoot, whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
I definitely just like get an idea, get excited, and just go for it. And I think a lot of people they get intimidated by like, well, what happens 6 steps away? But I'm
Uh-huh.
very comfortable with the unknown. I just like take the next step and then I know I'll figure it out at the next step. And then I'll figure it out after that. And then I'll figure it out after that. And I think if you have that attitude of like, I'll just keep figuring it out, I don't need to know what the heck I'm going to do, 6 months from now or when I'm in that scenario, you can get a lot farther, a lot faster. Because otherwise, there are a lot of people out there who just talk about it and never do it. And I think they kind of get analysis paralysis, and sometimes you just got to go for it.
Yeah, and then once you do those actions, everything just kind of it just doesn't become as difficult as it was when you thought it was originally. Like I think like for me, like that's how it was when it came to like flying on planes. Like I did not like fly. One time I went to Utah for no reason to get to Canada, the worst turbulence of my life, and I'm like, I can never do this again. But this year I did like 15 or 14 like plane rides, so it's like, yeah,
Nice.
But that's how you grow. Like, would you say like you grew a lot as like a human being when it came to, I don't know, like after these businesses were like what's that word, like operating? You change a lot as a human. I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, I'm a completely different person than I think when I was, for all the stuff, entrepreneurship stuff I've done, I'm a completely different person than I would have been if I hadn't, in a good way.
One question that I always ask the guests here is like, what would you give your 20-year-old? What advice would you give your 20-year-old self? I think I want to flip it today. What would your 20-year-old self say about Jayla today?
Interesting. I like that. I haven't thought about that one. Let's see. I don't know. I think I'd be pretty like proud. I think I'd be like, whoa, that's cool. Yeah. Like I live in my dream home in Santa Barbara. Whoa, crazy. I have like a kid. I didn't expect that. Still traveling, to different countries. Kudos there. And ultimately like, yeah, living a happy, life, like love my husband still. We're like best friends, and it's
Awesome.
we love doing the real estate stuff together. It's really fun for us. So I don't know. Yeah, I think my 20-year-old self would be pretty happy. I still exercise. That was big. So yeah, I feel like that's
That's cool.
I think I'd be pretty happy with where I was going.
No, yeah, I would be too. Last question, Jayla, is or second last is what books do you think that you've read? Like it could be any genre, like that have influenced your.
Yeah, so I'll give you two that, since this is like a mindset podcast. One of the ones that really was pivotal. I love Joe Dispenza. Again, I was never into yoga or meditation or anything through my like 20s and even mid 30s.
Oh wow,
But
are you a yogi?
no, I wouldn't call myself. I like doing yoga, not as much anymore, but I still do it just for like the health reasons. But I
On the
do.
beach?
Yeah, no, I wish. Yeah, I should do yoga on the beach. I don't. It sounds very Santa Barbara, but I don't do that. But yeah, there's a Joe Dispenza book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And after that 10 years of running that company and like acknowledging that it didn't go where I wanted it to go, it is really challenging to process that and to remove some of the like limiting beliefs that can like instill in your head. And I really had like this deep frustration that I knew I needed to shed it and get rid of it. And I just like couldn't get rid of it. And it was this frustration that like I couldn't turn that company into what I wanted it to. And this guilt that I didn't pay my investors back. And granted, with that, like I never took money from anyone who couldn't afford it, and so
Yeah, right.
it wasn't like, my grandma mortgaged her house or something, but still you just feel bad. I'm a person of my word, and like so I had to really dig deep, and that book really helped me do that. The other book is Dan Martell's book, Buy Back.
Oh yeah.
And that is a great book if you are trying to like get some of the menial tasks off your plate and to open up more energy and time for the things that will move the needle as an entrepreneur. So that one's like more tactical, and the other one's a little more like woo-woo, deep kind of shifts, limiting belief shifts that, are a real thing, I think. And, as we all evolve through life at different stages. Some people have different blocks than others, but I think everybody has stuff to work through on some level.
What about movies? Do you have like a movie that you would say that's influenced you in terms of career?
Ooh, a movie that's influenced me. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I am a sucker for like true story inspirational movies, like any of those. I just watched one the other day. Was it called Impossible? The wrestler who I think he only had one arm, was it? Oh my God, just amazing story. So I
Oh,
love.
the one leg.
Oh,
Anthony
One Leg.
Robles.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anthony Robles. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, great movie. So I don't know. I do try to watch like more inspiring, stuff like that. I don't watch the news or
Right. The news is
get sucked
hurtful.
into a lot of social media. Yeah, I try to stay on a positive note.
Oh gosh. Santa Barbara, is it sunny? Would you say it's sunny like 300 days a year, or like that's
Yeah, probably pretty close. Right now, May is usually May gray, but we had a beautiful May. Today is a little overcast. We call it May gray, June gloom.
Oh, okay. June gloom. Huh?
I think last year it did last longer. We had Y July and then Fogust. It
What
like
is Y
just kept
July?
going. We're like, this is ridiculous. We pay for sun here.
Yeah.
But yeah, similar. I mean, I think you guys, my sister lives in San Francisco and she said you guys have had decent weather there
It's good, but it's really just you don't know what you're getting when you wake up. It's like one day it's foggy, and then like other day it's like overcast, and then
Mhm.
not enough sun. But it's okay. Like I'll probably find somewhere with sun sometime. So. Yeah, I guess last question, Jayla, is what would you tell us your startup mindset is if you wanted to let the world know?
My startup mindset is you only live once, just go for it. I would much rather regret trying something than regret not trying something.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of my life, I just want to know that anything I thought would be fun or wanted to try, that I at least went for it.
Yeah, I was watching the show. It's called The Real World. You probably remember
Oh
it,
yeah.
right? And the guy Weston Bergman from Real World Austin, he was like saying like when I look back in my life, I want to have like more check boxes than unchecked boxes. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would do. But it's
Yep.
intimidating. So, but it's also like rewarding. So I think that the intimidation factor makes it rewarding. So that's really awesome.
Yep. And I think too,
Um,
that's where those movies come in. Sometimes you're like, damn, if that person can do that, I can totally try something different,
Most
People
definitely.
are really, I think, a lot stronger sometimes than we realize,
I agree. Well, Jayla Siciliano. Thank you. Is that Italian, by the way?
Yep.
I guessed right. Yeah, it was such a good time talking to you, and thank you for your time. If people want to find the podcast you do or like your social media, like where could they find that at?
Yeah, seedmoneypodcast.com. From there, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll do free pitch deck reviews on Fridays. There's a link there. Just if you have a pitch deck, you're pitching investors. I love doing that, giving people feedback. That's it.
Thank you, Jayla. And that does it for the podcast today. Let me click the button that says stop. Why isn't the mouse is okay? There we go.